Good afternoon and welcome to In Search of Diverse Book Buyers, a panel that will look at the challenges, the opportunities, and the successes of a diverse market for books for children and young adults. My name is Wade Hudson, and I am an author of books for children and young adults, and I am also co-founder and president of Just Us Books, a children's book publishing company established by my wife and I in 1988. And I will be your moderator. Getting more books published that represent our diversity and making those books more available to a diverse market is an old challenge, a challenge that some have called a struggle. Every so often, a clarion call is issued, a few cautious steps are taken, and soon it's back to business as usual. But there are those whose mission and focus have indeed helped to get more books into the hands of anxious book buyers, especially African American book buyers. They are indeed making a difference. And three of these difference makers are with us today. Vanessa Lloyd Gambate is founder of the African American Children's Book Project and CEO of the Literary Media and Publishing Consultant, and she's to my far left. Marva Allen is founder and CEO of the Human Bookstore located in Harlem, and she is to my immediate. Troy Johnson is founder of the African American Literature Book Club, the oldest, largest, and most frequently visited website dedicated to books and film by or about people of African descent. We're going to start our discussion by giving each of our panelists an opportunity to tell us a little bit about what they are doing. They are doing many outstanding things in terms of getting books into the hands of book buyers and particularly children. So we're going to start with Vanessa.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanessa Lloyd Gambate, and as Wade stated, I am the founder of the Literary Media and Publishing Consultants, as well as the founder of the African American Children's Book Project. I've been in the world of publishing for over a quarter of a century. Sounds like a long time. I mean, there's some faces in here that are probably 25-year-olds. But it's been a very, very wonderful journey for me. I managed to carve out a niche, and I specialize in African American books. When I first started this journey, someone said to me, I came out of the world of television, I was a producer. Someone said to me, you're never going to earn a living because black people don't buy books. And I looked at them like they were crazy because everyone around me was buying books. And this was at the dawn of the literary renaissance. Well, subsequently, I did carve out a career, and I've worked with some of the biggest names in the world of publishing, and they are African Americans. The second thing that I do is I created a nonprofit for African American children's books because I saw a lot of movement in the area of adult books, but very little going on for children's books. And so I started with a book fair, and 250 people attended that first book fair. Today it's a national event. We just celebrated our 23rd anniversary, and over 4,000 people attended. We have major corporate partnerships, Wells Fargo, NBC Universal, McDonald's, a number of healthcare organizations are all jumping on that bandwagon because they recognize the importance of having our children read, especially literature that reflect their images. One of the reasons, and of course I'm also a radio correspondent, a cultural reporter for a new program. I used to work at WRD, but I'm launching on iHeartRadio a new program called Literary Notes. And it will be a combination of literary programs. So if you have authors or you're an author, please check me out at the end of the segment. And entertainment, as well as travel. One of the reasons that I've been so successful in the world of publishing is because I created a niche and I keep reinventing myself. What you start out doing is not what you end up being. So a lot of the events I do, I think about how can I reach the consumer? I'm not sitting there waiting for them to come to me. I do special events, And our children's book fair, the reason why we sell more books than any other African and maybe independent retailer in the country in 2 hours, we do over $25,000 worth of book sales, is primarily because we create a hype, a Macy's hype, like a one-day sale. You got to be there. If you're not there, be square. And that energy makes people want to come. You get some promotional giveaways, some great authors and illustrators, and they're standing in long lines for an hour to buy books. Some people even wait just that one time in the year to purchase books, which is sad, but we try to keep them happy and have the best and the brightest. You want to reach some diverse book buyers, you got to go to them. And there are lots of them. The Pew Research study recently said that African Americans buy more books, African American women buy more books than any other demographics. They buy on average 12 books per year. So how do you reach them? You gotta go to them. I'm not gonna take up a lot of time because this is not just about me, but we'll talk more about that. How do you reach them and how do you engage them to make a profit for yourself, but also because this is primarily designed for booksellers, but I'm sure that there are other people who are publishers who want to know how to reach book buyers.
Troy.
Hello everyone, my name again is Troy Johnson, and as Wade mentioned, I run AALBC.com. I started that website in 1997, and that was before most people had computers at home or even knew what the internet was. And I've been running that website continuously since then. The reason I've been able to do that for such a long period of time is that I've done two things. One, I recognized the need in the marketplace, and that was the need for both authors to connect with readers and readers to connect with authors. And I think I'm doing a really good job at making that happen. And I do that a number of ways. The other way I've been able to survive so long in a very dynamic, constantly changing environment is because I have to stay on top of technology. The website that I created in 1997 does not exist in 2015. This summer, I'm planning on doing a major upgrade to the website. It will be dramatically different than it is today. And that constant state of change is something that's required. Not only required for the website, but it's required in this industry and how we continue to connect readers with books that they would enjoy. The topic of my website is really to celebrate and showcase books written by or about people of African descent. And it's not just about connecting those books with Black readers, but the purpose is to connect it with all readers, because Black literature literally is for everyone. And it's important that our stories are told, and that is what actually fuels me and motivates me to continue what I do. It's not all about solely generating income. It's about doing something I think that is important, and it's obviously a mission that's shared by everyone who's sitting up here on the stage today. I also run a website called thepowerlist.info. The Powerlist is a national bestsellers list that looks at and examines what African Americans are actually reading. We do that by reporting, looking at what's happening on social media, looking at various bestsellers lists, including AALBC.com, and we publish a bestsellers list every quarter. Finally, I run a website called Horea.org, and Horea.org, like AALBC.com, is really dedicated to ensuring that people are aware of what's available. We publish a list of Black-owned newspapers, booksellers, both online and off. We also follow bloggers, and we track the most popular websites that are tracking or publishing information that's of importance to African Americans. So the overriding goal of what I do is to ensure that our voices are heard across not just African Americans, but across the globe, literally. People of all backgrounds and interests can enjoy what African Americans produce.
Marva, what year was Human Bookstore established?
Human was established. Hi, I'm Martha Allen from the Human Bookstore, now Human Online. The original Human Bookstore, many of you might have heard of, was established in 2002, and we closed in 2012, so that's about 3 years now. And we were known as the largest and the best known African American bookstore in the United States, and some have even said in the world. And we've had some very successful projects and authors come through. But one of the things that I noticed as I decided to close the store was that, as you're probably noticing, there's a complete disruption in the publishing industry. And the future of publishing is clearly uncertain. And if you look around, and if you just look around and read some of the articles that you've seen, 2.8 million books were published, last known statistics, in 2012. And of those 2.8 million books, only 2 million were either self-published or published on demand. So where is the African American audience? Where is the ethnic audience? Where is the global ethnic audience? And not just African Americans. If only 800,000 books are coming out of the big 5 or 4 now, where is your audience? So one of the first things I say to anyone who's trying to reach a diverse audience is look at where your audiences are. They're probably not coming out of Simon & Schuster and Penguin, very few, and so you have to develop some programs to attract those authors into your business. I am known for my creativity, and I see the sky as the limit for getting books across borders. In fact, I think a couple of weeks ago, we were in Boston, both Vanessa and I, talking about, the audience was radically different. It was a group of white women who wanted to know, how do I extend my book to your audience? And now we're saying, how do we extend our books to a larger global audience? And some of the things that are very creatively done, even though we don't have a physical bookstore, we have a lot of strategic alliances. We do a lot of conferences, and I have been personally responsible for spearheading some of the literary festivals in the Caribbean. And this November, as just a part of what we do to attract a global audience, we're doing a festival in Antigua and Barbuda called Voices Across the World. And we're having people like Jan Martel from The Life of Pi, Terry McMillan, you know, we have invited Alex Cassini, we have Charles Blow. We have a lot of people who are coming in, and they represent every voice in the world, you know. And so I am very much interested in the global voice, and that is the direction that Human is going in, you know, in making sure that we are attracting people to all of those global voices. So that's what we represent now.
Vanessa, earlier you said that often you have to look to reinvent yourself. You may end up not the way you started out. What are some of the things that you have done, you're doing now, that are different from what you were doing, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago? And what are some of your plans for the future based on what you have learned and gleaned from your experience?
When I initially entered the world of publishing, I was a producer at a CBS-owned station in Philadelphia. And I've even worked as a producer, associate producer on the Oprah Winfrey Show. So I knew how important it was, the pitch, because publicists were calling me to pitch story ideas to get their clients on the air. So I focused a lot in on that. And my first book that I worked with a major publisher was Connie Briscoe, and it made the New York Times bestsellers list. And that is a lot of the focus that most authors and publishers, the first thing out of their mouth after they've gotten that book deal is, I want a New York Times, or this is going to be a New York Times bestseller. Well, the longer I stay in the business, I think of volume. I don't think of anybody's list, because at the end of the day, a book, even if it's on the Times list, it's how many books you sell, because that's where you make your profit. You make your profit as a publisher, as a author, and so you have to, and a bookseller, you have to sell volume. So I've always, from the beginning, put that, and that has never strayed from that particular perspective. But I now focus more than just depending on an in-store book event, is the bookseller going outside of the building, creating an event. And often is the case, if you partner with a sorority, a fraternity, because we have lots of those type of organizations, the Girl Scouts, a church, they have their own publicity and marketing team in place. You're just piggybacking on that. And so when you're the publisher, the author, the bookseller, when you piggyback onto someone else's project, you are going to benefit from that. So I like to connect those dots greater than I did when I first started. I just wanted to put them in a bookstore, worry about that list, and make it happen. What happens when you sell a lot of books, when you've got the media in place, it generates volume in the marketplace, because then people go to bookstores that do report to the list. But you got to create that volume. Looking towards the future, I've been in this business for 25 years, and I will probably die. And when they'll be saying, you know, she was at an event and she passed out. Because I don't see any reason to stop. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but trust me, I'll be getting a second check sometime, free of charge from Uncle Sam, at some point in the next couple of years. For those of you out there, you know what I'm talking about. But the important thing for me to continue to do is to continue to pursue those book buyers. And the children's event that I do has blossomed into something that started out as a book fair that is a necessity, because we are in a crisis. Our schools don't and libraries don't have funding to buy books. So the only way children are getting books into their hands is that families, like they did when I was growing up, they have to begin to buy books and put them back in the home. So I have a campaign, Preserve a Legacy, Buy a Book. Getting corporations to jump on this bandwagon. When they want to do something to give back to the community, spend some money on some books, give it to a child, plant those seeds, and maybe that one little book will open the door to other books. And connecting more and more over and over again with the local organizations, because they have a wealth of opportunity. Marvin knows this from the experiences of doing the Black Man's different organizations. Yeah. She goes all over the country. And even if you don't want to travel outside of your geographical area, there are opportunities. Even if you just go to a directory of African American organizations, call them up and say, hey, I'm a bookseller. What's your next event? I'd like to be your bookseller. All you have to do is show up with the books. Ready-made events.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, as you're saying, one of the great things that we have to do is to create strategic partnerships. A lot of people out there need people to come in and help them with their projects. I started with the 100 Black Men some 10 years ago now, it seems like, and they hired me as a consultant to put their book project together. I did it for NABJ, I have done it for Harvard, I have done it for a lot of people, and I actually love doing those things. But also know that you have a lot of knowledge as a bookseller, and that knowledge is equal to revenue. I mean, you know, many of us like to talk and give away our ideas and so on and so on, but it's a changing world. You're not going to make a living selling a book off a bookshelf right now. So you have to figure out how to be able to use all of your talents to create and generate the revenue that you need to keep going to spearhead those books all over the country.
Marvin, at what point did you make a decision to move from a bookstore to an online presentation?
So our lease was up, and I know there's a lot of misconception around that. It wasn't Harlem, they weren't raising my rent. It was none of that. But you know, I'm a business person first. I spent my entire life as a serial entrepreneur. And so I know what good business looks like. And so you have a list of pros on one side and a list of cons on the other, and you simply go with the longest list. And at the point that we would have to have signed another 10-year lease, I looked at the industry and said, this industry is being disrupted. The business model is going to change. I cannot spend 10 years in this location and be successful. So I needed to step out to figure out what the bookstore of the future looks like. And the bookstore of the future is not going to look like anything that you see today. And so I am looking, my vision is 10 years down the road about what's happening, and I'm actually working on a project, that addresses that. Nothing I can disclose at the moment, but it's just very exciting where the industry is going, and with Internet 2.0, Web 2.0, even more so opportunities for the disruptive technologies.
Troy, you mentioned earlier that you've developed several other online sites, right? What other kind of changes and adjustments have you made as you've grown over the years to remain more relevant and viable?
Yeah, I mean, where do I start? I guess the biggest one in recent years, about 5 years ago, I went into, say, for example, social media. Pretty much any platform that was available. And over the years, I've noticed, for example, that the effectiveness of it, looking at time invested or even money invested versus return on that investment, that's changed. And it's changed to the point where even the amount of time that I invest and the return that I get, for example, it may not be obvious when you look at what's in the popular media, but I, for example, have discovered that social media is not as effective as it used to be. And so how do you adjust? And one of the things that I've determined is that if you branch out and connect with, if you're a bookseller, connect with other booksellers. If you have a website, connect with other like-minded websites and figure out ways to synergize your sites, working together in ways that you can uplift each other without having to depend on, one organization. The first lesson might have been learned when people invested a lot of time, effort, and energy on establishing a platform on MySpace. And we know what happened with MySpace. So what I've discovered is that we can't continue to rely on individual websites to help uplift us, because what their motivation is to encourage engagement on their platforms. And we're trying to encourage engagement on our platforms. So the reason I started those other websites was to, in fact, encourage that. Career.org is a nonprofit. It's not technically a nonprofit, but there's no advertising on the website. The only goal for that website is to help others learn about websites they would not otherwise discover through search or even social media. And that's actually an old school tactic. That's what we used to do before there were even search engines. People had to let others know that there was another cool website that was worth checking out. Initially that was done through just links, then directories, and then ultimately search engines came along. But we got to go back to saying, hey, I visited Human, they're doing a great thing, or Vanessa's doing something really terrific. Here's a link to a website, visit the website. Because I've discovered, again, posting a link to Vanessa's website might get a link on, like on some social media platform, but it's not directing traffic to our site. And we have to really leverage our own platforms and in fact continue to develop our own platforms in order for our voices to be heard. There are authors, booksellers who don't even have their own websites. And I think that's going in the wrong direction. So part of what I try to do is help people understand why it's important to have your own real estate on the World Wide Web.
And I just wanted to say that Troy's website, if you want to find out who, what, when, where, and how of Black literature, this is the place to go.
And I just wanted to just add something really quick there. I know we're going to give you some time. But you have to think of all the other ancillary things that come along with what you do as an expert. Are you the person who can create special author videos that authors can put on YouTube? What are some of the other services that you can add if you're still in a brick and mortar environment that you can add that is consultative, that offers you greater dollars and more stability? So there are lots of things that you can do to address the ancillary market, and certainly the market, as I said, 2.8 million books, 2 million self-published. You've got a ready market to offer them the kinds of services that they need to promote their books. So having a YouTube channel is a good thing for your bookstore.
I think we have about 2 minutes for questions. Is there someone with a question that would like to pose? Right in the front.
Hello, everyone. Michelle Gibson, Written Magazine. Thank you for the information. We have seen how rapidly this industry changes. If we are to do projections and forecasts for our own businesses or our books, what do you think the one thing we should be doing now to get ready for our businesses 3 years in the future?
People, we talk about technology. People have to always remember, and this is why everything that I have done in this industry, and I'm still current, 25 years later, is that it's about reaching people. Do not forget that. Do not get caught up in the technology or the advances, because invariably the end user is the most important thing. How you reach the end user changes constantly, but the basics of how you reach the end user, for example, my children's book fair, I have parents who used to attend as children who are bringing their children. We nurture that. They know what they're to expect. We make sure that we have books that will engage them and an atmosphere. You have to remember that we're trying to reach people. And we get caught up in all this philosophical stuff. It's about people putting their money on the line, buying a book.
Do you develop a marketing or business plan?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we do. And you know, I have to say to Vanessa that you cannot ignore technology. You can ignore technology at your own peril. Because, you know, as I heard the saying that said, everything has changed about the music industry but the song. And that's about to change as well. Everything is changing about the book business but the words. How we deliver words is going to be something very different. And I do agree with her that we need to create what we call a high-touch environment in which we can engage our consumers in conversation. And that's the only thing that's going to put a book in their hands, is if you can engage them. And that doesn't necessarily mean at a book signing, but there are ways to use technology to do that.
How much, Troy, did you have in place when you launched your company, your online site?
How much do I have in place?
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean,
In terms of moving forward.
nothing. I mean, I didn't even have a business plan. It really started as a exercise to try to understand how to make money on the web. And I was completely agnostic about how I went about doing that. At the time, I was actually building websites, we're talking about the mid-90s, for other small businesses. One of my clients said that she loved her website but wasn't making any money. So I said, let me figure out how to make money. I picked books, and I serendipitously discovered my love of the world of books. Not only was I the webmaster, I was my favorite customer. I was discovering authors and books that I had no concept of. And this was after two college, an MBA and an MS. And I really had no concept of what was available. So that is what excited me. And I'm not sure if I answered the question,
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was why I launched the site. That's why it continues to excite me. And to Marva's point, technology is what enabled it, but technology can undo it as well. And we really have to be smart about how we utilize technology. And for the last 17, 18 years, I think I've been pretty good at it, but it was never easy. And so what I have in place is, one, a love of what I'm doing, and a desire and some aptitude at taking advantage of what's out there.
Is there time for one other question? Is there another question? No? Well, let's thank Vanessa Lord Gambati, Troy Johnson, and Marva Allen. I think they have shared some really important information that you can take with you. And we thank you for coming. And my name is Wade Hudson. Good afternoon.